All right, good evening. It is March 4th. This is the regular board meeting for the Angier Board of Commissioners. I'll call this meeting to order. Tonight, I believe we are joined by the ABC Board in its entirety, perhaps, to lead us in pledge and invocation. So if you guys don't mind to join us up here and speak right into that microphone.
Which is your good side, Tom?
Joseph, you're up first.
Pledge allegiance. Oh, I'm do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Gotta lead us.
Somebody.
Okay, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with great thanks and blessings for this great community that we all call home, Angier, North Carolina. We ask your continued blessings upon this community that it might grow and strengthen and prosper. We ask your blessings too upon our Board of Commissioners as they gather tonight to do the business of our town. Bless them with tranquility. We ask these things and many of your blessings in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. All right, we've all seen the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, consent agenda. We've got a whole slew of minutes to approve. If there's not any discussion on the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right, it's the first meeting of the month, so we have public comment available. There's a sign-up sheet in the back that nobody has signed up for. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak a public comment tonight? You could say nice things, mean things. That's your 3 minutes. All right, we'll do it again in April. We have a presentation tonight, two rather. We'll start with Officer Langford, who has joined us tonight to give us an update on his work with the Special Olympics.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me put these down right here real quick. I just want to give you an update of what we did last year and how we got started in the Special Olympics. I've been involved with it since 2006 in a small part. I didn't realize how big the actual organization was until I showed up to last year's Special Olympics conference in Cherokee and was quickly realized how big the organization is with all the fundraising and activities that they do. And we just didn't just go out and ask for money for Special Olympics. Well, we also went to Campbell University where they did their spring games. So we were out there with the athletes as they're competing. We also did the torch run in Raleigh where they did the opening ceremony. So I don't know if some of y'all have seen pictures of that where we were over there. And just seeing some of the athletes just, could have fool and have fun, it was really eye-opening. But I just wanted to basically go over what we did. The first thing we did last year after we came back for the conference, we started what we call Cop on Top at Carly C's. And we raised, I think, about $1,500 just in that event alone. And basically, we put a cop on top of the building, waving a flag. We all took turns. And as people were coming in grocery shopping, we were having our table there where they were giving donations for T-shirts, and just some of them wouldn't even take a shirt. They were just putting donations in and doing a raffle we were giving them out, I think, $50 gift cards for the grocery shopping. We also did a tip-a-cop at Napper Tandy's, where our officers dressed up in uniform will basically play waitress or waiter for the night. So when they would follow the actual employees around, help them give out the teas or the Cokes or whatever. Obviously, we didn't mess with alcohol. That was for their job. And when the food's ready, we came out there and got the food and helped clean tables. So Robert over in Napper Tandy's got a lot of free help that night. And at the same time, we're also taking donations. The tips left on the table, unless they said this is for the waitress, it went to Special Olympics. And we were still selling, any event we do, we sell the T-shirts and stuff like that. And we were taking all kinds of donations. So it was a real successful event. So much so that he called us back and said, when y'all want to do another one?
Yeah.
So, and the employees really enjoyed us being there. And like so, we're helping them do the job.
Yeah.
They liked it.
Another event we did, they also have state events throughout the year. And one of those is called a plane pool, where we go to RDU airport and we pull a plane. It's basically you're playing tug of war, and whoever gets it over the line the quickest, it's a big competition, and it's competition with just not just law enforcement. They also have corporate sponsors and stuff like that. So some of the businesses will get together to do a team, and it's just a fun full day event. And all it is raising money for Special Olympics. And I think in order to be able to participate, each team had to raise at least $1,000. And I can't give you the exact amount of teams, but it was a real successful event on that. And again, like I said, the torch run in Raleigh, which is, I think it's about 5 miles, where we went to Carter Finley Stadium. We ran up to NC State campus, had a little quick break, and then we ran to the Capitol building. They had a big photo op, and then after that, we got on the buses, went back to Carter Finley, and they would do a quick meeting, some awards, and I think it was Smithfield Chicken Barbecue that fed us, and which after running 5 miles, I'm not sure how much, but it was a real good event. And basically, as soon as you get done with the event, home, cleaned up, or went to your motel, got on your best uniform, and you came back with white gloves and your hat, and they fed you. They had the opening ceremonies, and where they had us, they had the officers in one room, and you can hear all the commotion on the other side of the wall where all the athletes and the parents were just having a great fun. And then we were able to march in with lit torches. It was real like a dress ceremony, and one of the officers and one of the athletes was able to march hand in hand and lit the actual cauldron, I guess you say, to start the games in Wake County.
Wow.
So it was a real big, real good event.
Yeah.
So, and there's agencies from all over the state that show up. And again, I was telling you about Campbell University. We showed up, we put the tent up, we gave out a bunch of coloring books and some little knickknacks that we got. Did learn an important lesson on that day was don't bring crayons out there. Yeah, it became a soup. So, and again, we went after that. Like I said, we did another tip-a-cop at Napper Tandy's, because they really liked this. They wanted us back. And just in some of the other state events that we may try to do this year, they call it Over the Edge, where you go to Raleigh and you get on the big BB&T building and
Yep.
you rappel down.
Yep.
I've had a couple of officers say they want to try to do it. I'm not one of them. I'll take a picture and I'm at the bottom, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So, and we're doing the playing pool again this year. And we got our shirts in, and that's one of the things I want to give y'all. When we raised over $7,000, that got our name on the shirt. So Angier Police Department's name, or the Angier Town's name, is going to be on the shirt that's going to be throughout the state.
Yeah.
So every agency is going to have it on there, and we were number 30th. And out of all the agencies that came up there, some of them make it on the shirt, some of them don't. And we're right beside one of the biggest fundraisers in the state, which is Fuquay.
Yeah.
They raise over $140,000. So, and all of it goes to Special Olympics. So I just wanted to pass these shirts out to you real quick.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for your effort.
Thank you so much.
Are these events, public can join them as well?
Sir?
Are these events, speaking of, the public can join as well?
I even spelled it right.
Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah, that's one of the things I plan on doing this year. Sometimes it's just with the police department, but we're going to do our own local torch run here, where I'm still in the works of getting everything organized, where the Anger town limit sign on 55, that's where we're going to start, and come up. We're going to take some back roads, kind of avoid the heavy traffic. It's going to be on Saturday morning, and then get back on 55 to the Fuquay sign. And with that, I want to invite some of the athletes that we have living in our community. I want to invite some of the public to come, do a donation. You get a shirt, and you can help run with the officers. So all that's still in planning. I want to try to do a lot more local stuff than what we're doing. Like I said, last year was really our first year. We're dipping our toes into it. We're getting a little bit more knowledge on how things are run this year. And as every year that passes with this, I want it to grow. I want it to keep on, get more events. My goal last year was basically the $7,000.
Get on the shirt.
Get on the shirt. That's what I want to get on the shirt. And once we hit that, we can do a lot more. So I raised the goal up to $10,000. And then we hit that. So I think we raised just over $13,000
Awesome.
as a community
Awesome.
last year
For the first
Special
year.
Olympics.
For the first
Yeah,
year.
that's for the first year.
I don't even think you mentioned the polar plunge.
Yeah, well, that was at the conference, where the polar plunge. Obviously, you're at Cherokee in the mountains in February, and I did it this year, and I did it again, or did it last year also, where we raise up. I think last year we raised $800. This year I wanted to break a record, and we did. We raised $900 this year for the polar plunge. And you basically just go up to Cherokee. Like I said, there's snow and ice still on the ground, and we're jumping in that pool.
It was you, right?
Yeah,
It was him.
so it was cold. So it's for a good cause, and like I said, we're trying to get more involved in it. I've already contacted Harnett County Special Olympics organizers for Campbell University, so we can be out there. I want to get some of our guys be out there manning tent, and I want to be able to participate with the help organize with the athletes, man some of the events to help them. And I've already contacted Wake County. Since we're unique, we're over 2 counties. I've already contacted Wake County, and they've already reached out and said we would love to have you. So I'll be with Wake County also, showing up to help them out also.
Awesome.
This is just our way of making sure that all of our citizens are served, and this is just a small part on what we can do. And with the conference, you get awards. Obviously Fuquay, they get the top fundraiser award, and there's all kinds of other ones out there for it to be nominated. Andrew did get 2 awards this past year, and I want to present these to date. We got this one is for raising over 7,000. So they appreciate that. They give you an award for 7,000, and we get on a shirt. This also was top new agency.
All right.
Since we're new, any of the new
Awesome.
agencies.
Right.
We got the #1 spot for the new agency with Special Olympics, and it was very humbling. I went up there once we presented the award. I'm sure there's a video of it or picture somewhere where I had to say something quick in front of all these agencies out there.
I have no idea what that's like. So.
Yeah. But these are the awards. If y'all want to take a look at them, these were as soon as our new police department's going to be built. As soon as you walk in, this is what you're going to
Going
see.
on the wall.
That's
Awesome.
fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
hand them up here. We'll pass them down.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you came up here to present
Yes.
this to us tonight. We've got a little packet right here, and I hope that we can find a way to publish this too, because it wasn't in the agenda with all kinds of pictures from last year. So this is
Well,
fantastic.
this is, I made this in January, and I gave it to the chief. I said, here you go. When you go talk, you can do this. And he gave it right back to me, and he said, you do it.
Well, he's got a lot on his plate right now, I think, too. So, but
yeah.
it's
I've
really,
got good at doing that.
yeah,
So.
it's
I do want to say real quick. First of all, I'm really proud of the whole team. Langford has sure took the torch and run with it, and he's took charge and he's done an awesome job. These officers don't get paid nothing to go to these events. They're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And every penny that is donated, basically I collect it, and they give me the deposit slips. I take it right to the bank, and every penny of it goes straight to the Special Olympics. And what it does, it helps set up the events for, like Campbell University, the opening ceremonies, and also some of the athletes that compete. They go to the nationals. I think this past year they go to Texas. So our North Carolina athletes use this money to travel to Texas. This year also, just like the Olympics that everybody watches on TV, I think they're in Italy right now. So that money help raise pays for athletes, and I think one officer to Italy to compete. So
yeah.
it's going to a really good cause.
Well, it's really exciting to see our police department and local businesses get behind this stuff. You certainly have my support, and I hope this year, first year, I know you're kind of getting your feet wet, really cold and wet sometimes, but I have high hopes for you this year.
We hit
You certainly-
13,000 last year.
Yeah.
My goal this year is at least 15. I know we can do
15.
it. So I know we can do it. It's just.
I think we could get 20. I mean, I was gonna say 30, but you started with 15.
Well, I hit
so,
15.
you know, I'm
Once I
trying to-
hit 15, I start raising it. I'm like,
I think
oh,
I think it should be 20.
I was going for the 130 next door. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you know, baby steps, but you know,
No, go big or go home.
That's right.
what
There
I'm
you
saying.
go.
Well, look, I for everything that your department does, and for this especially, I think I'm going to stand up and give you guys some
Yep.
applause. So, absolutely. I hope you guys join me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, on all these events, I ask all the officers. I start getting the team up together, and they know that out the gate. This is not comp time. This is not overtime.
Yeah.
This is your time to volunteer, and it's been real
I
successful.
want to know who wants to go over the edge because I got to guess.
I've had a few contact me.
I was going to say, if you need help, I'll help you pull a plane, but I'm not going up on a building.
I'll go.
Do you have a date for Cardi C's? Are you going to do that again?
That's going to be March 21st.
March 21st.
Yes. Yeah, March 21st is Carly
What
C's.
day is it? Is that on a Thursday?
It is. It's on a Friday, so I've
Is that a
got,
Friday?
I've got it in my
Oh, okay.
event list here.
Well, I challenge all the commissioners to come out there and see how much money you can actually collect.
Select.
Yes.
All right.
And we got
Let's work our butts off to get them going.
the flame pool on April the 12th. I'm getting ready to start getting that going. So everybody that's, especially in the member community, once they start seeing the town manager Facebook page, the police department Facebook page, we're going to have links on there so they can click on either the team or the individual officer to donate. Each officer has got, I think it was like about $200 to be able to participate in the playing pool, so the team can get the 1,000. So they'll be doing that. Tentative date is the 24th of April. I still got to get up with Robert and lock everything in on that. And I'm shooting for in May, May the 17th to be Andrew's torch run. So like I said, that's still in the works, but if anybody wants to go ahead and start contacting me and say they want to participate, I'm not going to turn anybody down.
How long is that run?
I think just where I've already mapped out is about 2 miles.
Can we walk
Can we get a
briskly?
torch walk?
Yeah, you're basically,
Okay.
you're going at the fastest pace of your slowest guy.
I'm not a runner,
So
I felt bacon.
we,
but I can walk like the best of them.
we did it every year in Sanford, and I think it was the Moore County line to the Chatham County line.
Okay.
Right,
And yeah,
That's a good.
that's a good haul.
it was one year I went from start to the finish, and going over that bridge, I never had to have somebody carry. So, but it's like I said, it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Langford.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you want to do it down there?
Sir, what date was the plane pull?
April 12th.
Yeah, I think April the 12th.
Okay.
Get in the middle, please, so we can all be seen around you. Yes,
Get
please.
Mel, come on.
Yes, April the 12th.
All right. We have another presentation that I'm sure is going to be equally as exciting.
Since everybody's in a good mood, they just got their heart warmed up.
Uh-huh.
We're going to talk about a PACE study.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to introduce Mr. David Hill. David Hill is from the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. He is here to present our that was approved from our last budget process in 2024-2025. Mr. Hill actually did a PACE study for us back in 2019. So, welcome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
That was
excellent
the police
report.
department, but
Yeah.
they earned that.
Well, I am David Hill. I've stood before you before, but I'm here tonight to present to you the culmination of about 7 months' worth of work. It will seem to be a relatively short presentation, but I'm going to cover the major parts. I'm going to talk about process, procedure, methodology. But if I can operate my machine correctly, we're in good shape. So a pay study, a pay and classification study, is about 85% of our time focused on positions. And in order for us to do that, we have to rely on department directors, we have to rely on employees to provide to us all of the information about the position that they hold. And we ask them to provide information to us in a questionnaire where we capture from each employee every element of their position, to include all of the physical demands and environmental conditions. Does the job require that they work outside, inside? Does their job require that they lift, stoop, jump, run, so forth? There are also questions that we collect under Fair Labor Standards Act to help us support a recommendation of whether a position is exempt or non-exempt. So the first thing we do is at the beginning of the study, and we started your study at the beginning of August, and the first couple of slides that we're going to take a look at are a snapshot of your workforce at the beginning of the study. So this was just a snapshot, just a period of that moment in time. But from that, we collect a lot of initial data, initial interpretations about your workforce. So as we go through time, ask what questions you have, and we'll spend as much time at the end to talk about. So, bell curves, deviation. My definition of a mature workforce is that you have an average years of employment between 8 and 10 years. And if you have a mature workforce, and if the sample size is large enough, I should be able to find 2/3 of your employees in the middle 1/3 of the bell curve. Now, my definition of a mature workforce is, as I said, 8 to 10 years. Unfortunately, length of employment over the last several years is down closer to the 6 to 8 year period. And you're going to see when we look at the first chart that you're even less than that. So we'll talk about those things. But before we go to the next slide, my apologies. I have a technical inability to recreate bell curves. So my bell curves look like St. Louis arches. So this is the very first thing I take a look at. Now again, this is a snapshot of the workforce at the beginning of the study. How long have employees been working here? So you can see up at the top, the average length of employment is 4.6 years. My St. Louis Arch represents a 20-year career. And I can tell you that in my younger days, if I were presenting this, that chart would represent a 30-year career. But you can see that even though it represents a 20-year career, you only have 3 employees who've been with you greater length of time than that. So down in the bottom left, you can see that almost 43% of your employees have been with you less than 2 years. You've got 2/3 of your employees who've been with you less than 5 years. So again, the average length of employment is about 4.5 years. What that chart represents also is a good visualization of recruitment on the left side, retention on the right side. What that also represents are the number of employees who came to work for you in each of those calendar years, who were still with you at the beginning of the study. What it does not represent is the total number of employees who actually came to work for you in each of those calendar years. And you can see in the middle part of that, there's a significant number of years where obviously I'm assuming employees came to work during that period of time. But you can see that there's an entire stretch of time there that you have no employees working who came to work during those years. The next slide is where I take a look at how long have they been working in their current position. Again, the Arch represents a 20-year career. But 2/3 of your employees have been in their current position less than 2 years. Now, typically, this slide is a mirror of the first slide. Employees have been with you a relatively short period of time. They're still in the position that they came to work in. So the average length of employment in their current position is 3.3 years. The next matrix that I look at is where are employee salaries in relation to their pay grade range. All right, so your pay grade range is approximately 50%. And what that means is that the maximum salary of a pay grade range is 50% greater than the minimum. So this chart represents the entire 50% range. You do have one employee whose salary is above the max. But again, as a mirror of the first 2 slides, most of the bars are over on the left side. So the average salary here is 15% above the minimum salary for their pay grade range. but you've got 8% of your employees whose salaries are less than 2% above minimum. And then, more importantly, you've got right at 48% of your employees whose salaries are compressed within less than 10%. So when I look at this chart, and having viewed the first two charts, I'm looking at this chart, and I'm seeing that salaries, they actually have some pretty good distribution compared to the first two charts. Typically, when I see the kind of charts that we saw in charts 1 and 2, I would see more higher bars over on the left side. So my first interpretation of this kind of chart is your salary grades aren't competitive. You're having to bring employees to work at salaries further up in the pay grade range. Or the salary ranges are competitive, but you've got a pretty aggressive advancement of salaries once they get here. So that's the first interpretations. So at that point, I didn't know the answer to those questions. All right, so who is the market? So these are the local governments. And as you can see, for the most part, those are all of your geographic neighbors. When I do a study, the very first thing I do is take a look at Google Maps. Where am I going to be working? And then I take a look at a 30-mile, 60-mile, 90-mile radius of that point. If Andrew is like most local governments in the state of North Carolina, greater than 90% of your employees will not move to go to work for a local government in another part of this state. Managers do, some directors do, some technical staff will, but greater than 90% of employees will not move to another part of this state to go to work for another local government. So who will they go to work for? They will go to work for your neighbors. They pull out of their driveway tomorrow morning, and instead of turning left, they turn right and go to work somewhere else. And then, I don't know where all of your employees live, but I would assume, again, if you're like most local governments in North Carolina, lots of your employees pass right by most of those places up there, or some of those places up there. So that's the market. So what do I do with that data? So that's what we're going to take a look at next. So what you're going to look at is a market comparison worksheet for one position. I'm not going to stand here tonight and go through every position that you have. I'll use police officer as the example. But each one of your positions has a worksheet that looks almost like what we're going to look at next. So what you're going to see in this chart is from each of those local governments. What pay grade range do they have that particular position in? Now again, this is for this particular position, this particular classification. This is for no other position. So when I take a look at all of those other local governments, and I'm still waiting for Lillington to send me information on their pay grade ranges. They send us salary information, but some places you have to wait. But everything above the blue line is the market, and the market data is the pay grade range, the minimum, the midpoint, the maximum salary for the pay grade range that they have that position in. Now the midpoint is that highest part of that bell curve, and midpoint really is not the correct term to use. That's the most popular term. But the middle part, or that midpoint of that salary grade range, actually is where you should be able to find the salary of an employee who's been working in that position 8 to 10 years. This is not a good example of employees being in a position 8 to 10 years. And most employees in this particular classification don't stay in that position very long. They either get in and get out, or they come to work for one of these local governments, and then hopefully after a relatively short period of time, they're advanced to police officer 2 or the next position in the organization. But the column titled actual is the actual average salary for employees in this particular position from each of those local governments. And then I take a look at the range, and again, the range is just a measurement of how far the maximum salary is from the minimum. The title, or the column title CR stands for comp ratio. In salary administration, that's just a way to take a look at salaries. You're looking at the relative position of a salary compared to the market value or the market rate, and in this case, to the midpoint. So where is my salary in relation to the midpoint? And then looking at salaries differently, what's the percentage greater than minimum of that salary? So then immediately below the blue line is your position of police officer 1, its current grade assignment, and the current grade range. So for police officer 1, the minimum salary or the starting salary in that pay grade range is $48,800. Maximum salary is $71,500. The average salary for a police officer 1 working for the town of Angier is $51,600. Now, immediately below that line is the average of the market. And immediately below that is the median or the 50th percentile of the market. So if I look at the average line, I'm looking at that number directly below the $48,800, the minimum salary for a police officer 1. The average minimum or average starting salary for a police officer in this identified market is $55,900. Immediately to the left of that, you can see the minus 12.7. That means that your pay grade range for this particular position is almost 13% below the average of the market. And you're 13.5% if we measured against the 50th percentile. So then if you come over to the column titled actual, again, the average salary for a police officer is $51,600. The average salary for a police officer in this identified market is $59,600. So in the far right bottom, you can see that your average salary for this particular classification is 13% below the average of the market, and almost 14% if we're measuring the 50th percentile. The two bottom lines, if you look at the column, the grayscale column that's titled 3%, all of the information above the blue line is the current information from each of those local governments. My 3% column is my current projection of what that local average information is going to look like at the beginning of the next fiscal year. So I'm basically taking the minimum average salary, the minimum median salary, and increasing it 3%. So then that becomes my benchmark. So I'm taking a look at both the current average and median, as well as the 3% greater average and median. And then one of my recommendations that we'll get to in a moment is a new pay plan. And in the new pay plan, I'm looking at, okay, does this position need to move to the new grade 22, which will have a minimum salary of $56,000? But if I do that, that's just catching you up where everybody is now. So then looking at my 3% column, my recommendation is that police officer 1 would be assigned to the new grade 23, which would have a starting salary of $58,800, and you can see how that compares to the grayscale numbers. So again, this is just one of your classifications. Each one of your positions has a worksheet, a comparison sheet very similar to this. And as I work and analyze and interpret all of that data, that basically is how I come up with what pay grade assignment each position should be in. So the pay plan, and I know that's very small, but on the left side is your current pay plan, which contains a lot of information that provides no consistency. There's no consistency in the grade ranges. There's no consistency in the differentials from one grade to the next. Some of your grades, actually, the higher grade range in some of those is actually lower than the pay grade immediately before it. But the right side is my proposed plan. And it's very similar to your current plan, but what I've done is I changed the numbering system, but your first grade, grade 10, I currently have starting at an annual salary of $31,200. That's the annualized $15 an hour rate. And then beginning with that, I smooth everything out to a consistent 50% range from top to bottom and a consistent 5% differential between each grade. And again, I changed the numbering system because your current numbering system is a combination of numbers and letters and some other characters.
Hieroglyphs and
so then, after the collection of all that data, the interpretation of all of that data and initial recommendations, what are my recommendations that I bring to you tonight? And again, I truly appreciate all the help from every employee, department directors, and especially over the last month or so, the assistance from Lee and Derek and Veronica that helped me get to tonight's presentation. But my first recommendation for consideration is the adoption of the recommended new pay plan. And then if you adopt that new pay plan, then my next recommendation for consideration is that you assign each position to the pay grade supported by the market data. Police officer, for example, would go to the new grade 23. And then adopt a method or a model designed to look at employee service time, time and position, and make a recommendation regarding individual salaries. So the recommendation that I have for you tonight is it's a comp ratio model. It's a comp ratio model based on time and position relative to the midpoint of the market value of the pay grade range and designed for an employee salary to reach the midpoint or that market value in the 8th year of their employment in their current position. So that's the first bullet up there is or 10th year. 8 to 10 years. So yours is going to be the 10-year model. So again, designed that employee salaries would advance and have that relative position in their pay grade range based on time and position that they reach midpoint in the 10th year. So what will it cost to do that? So the first numbers you see, the $295,000, are the annualized salaries. The $76,000 is the approximately 26% of payroll associated costs, and that's your FICA, retirement, 401k. So if you were looking at an annualized implementation cost, that would be the approximately $373,000. Now below that, I provided information to you if you wanted to consider an implementation in April of this year and not delay until until July 1st. If you implemented these recommendations in the last quarter of this current fiscal year, then that would be right at $74,000 in salaries, $19,000 in the payroll associated cost, and a total of 93,167.
All right, so just to clarify it from my own knowledge, the first set of numbers that total 372,000 would be an increase to next year's budget,
That would be the annualized
All right.
increase, yes.
and then the April implementation would be, if we decide to do that in April, we would need to find 93,000 in this fiscal budget
for
to
the
cover
for the
that
remainder of this fiscal
implementation.
year.
Okay,
So that's an increase from current pay. That's 93,000 on top of what was currently paid.
yes.
And that 372 again is on top of what's currently, okay.
Mhm.
Yes. So my next slide says, thank you very much for the opportunity to be before you tonight. And I'm here as long as you wish for me to be, to answer all your questions.
Yeah.
I have one. How often do agencies or towns like Angier actually do a pay grade study and implement?
They're becoming more often. Typically, in years past, every 4 to 5 years. I would say the majority of local governments in the state right now are doing some form of evaluation all the time.
Can you determine from your study what we need to do next year, not just next year, but then year 2, year 3, year 4, and 5, so that we may not have to do the study, that we stay up with it?
The spreadsheet that I've provided has a date block on it. And to forecast what the cost would be for 26, 27,
Yeah.
you just go in and change the date, and it repopulates all of the data on the spreadsheet.
It would help us keep up with it
And,
without having to.
and that's
come back
important
with study.
in this comp ratio model, because employees are going to systematically move across your pay grade range in accordance with their time and position. And if you don't maintain that spreadsheet, then you're going to lose the opportunity to keep track of that.
And then I think that, the necessity for a study depends a lot too on the economy. We've seen so much change in the
Yes.
last 2 or 3 years. Our last pay study was 2019 was the last one with him. Was that our last pay study?
Yes.
3 years ago.
Yeah, we did one.
All right, we did one 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's still valuable.
That was
But,
the 12
even in the last 3 years, everything has changed so much.
Oh,
Cost of
absolutely.
living,
Absolutely.
so his model could work if the economy kind of stays the way it is, then his model should work as long as, there's not outside forces that would warrant something like this. So I think it is certainly valuable to do this. I mean, we need to hire and retain staff to keep this town going. We don't want to lose them to other towns. So this is very valuable information, and I appreciate it. I look forward to, seeing some more detailed versions of this.
Definitely got
Yeah.
And making those annual adjustments going forward, you don't see that kind of implementation cost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was
that's
gonna-
fine. I think we've been trying to catch up on things here and there, but, it's not surprising to see that we've slipped behind. Any other questions? Do we need any action on this tonight?
Yeah, he's looking for a job.
Okay.
I've been taking notes while you're talking, because more of what you're saying makes sense is what I'm reading, because I read this and I was like, I don't know if I can make that make sense. Okay, so I'm glad you're here to talk it through. Is 372,000 at a new fiscal year implementation average, or is that high, or is it low with an organization our size?
Ooh, that's a good, put you on the spot.
Well, I would say that it's more average.
Okay. Because just looking at the one employee grade, how we are so low. So, I'm curious if there are other employees that mirror that. If that's the worst one, or if there are other bad ones that, you know.
Yeah, and in all of my presentations, I always use police officer.
Right,
Because
okay.
everybody has.
Right.
If I use a position from any other department, then you're not going to get a good full view of comparisons. And you have some classifications that have very limited comparisons. But police officer, and not to pick on police officers, but everybody has one of those. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee, has staff seen all of these, you know, the department heads as it relates to their department and in support of where these numbers end up at?
We have not actually, we have talked to all the department heads, and told them, described everything to them, but we haven't actually sat down with them and showed all the numbers.
Yeah.
But, everybody's just excited about anything coming. So
I'm-
just to get us caught up.
I'm sure.
And that 300, and some thousand, that is a big impact, but that's to get us where we need to be. And just going year to year, it's not going to impact us like that.
Yeah.
So,
Just the first go.
yeah, it's just got to get us caught up.
Got to rip the Band-Aid off.
That's right. And when Mr. Hill was talking about the four years retention, on average, it takes us, and I would say the same thing with any other director here, it takes us roughly about 2 years to get an officer ready.
Yeah.
Where we feel like they can go out and do the job that we're expecting them to do and have all the tools and the training needed. So that's half of their career here, and then we're training them to go somewhere else, and we've got to quit that. We've got to start
agree.
retaining people.
Well, I know this month we start our budget conversations with an April implementation at that $93,000. Can someone tell me where that might come from?
Yeah, that was my next question. Derek?
Are we pulling from a project? Are we taking away from anything in order to make? Yeah. Would you mind?
Or give
Thank
him
you,
a
Derek.
mic.
Sorry.
Oh, we need a mic.
And David can correct me if I'm wrong. He sent us some preliminary numbers back in the fall. And it was more than this. Veronica, Lee, David, we worked really hard to come up with something that's fair and reasonable, and something that creates market value for Anger. The goal is for us to be able to get quality people that want to be here, and then once they are here, reward them for their hard work so they want to stay here. Lee, he couldn't have said it any better. We're training people to go take a job somewhere else for more money. And we want people to want to be here and want to stay here. And of course, I know financial compensation is not everything, but it doesn't hurt. So,
Yeah.
so yes.
It's the first thing people are looking for.
Yeah, and we do have the financial means to be able to afford this without putting any type of financial burden on the town at all.
Okay. I want to hear you say it.
It just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think the big number that, you know, rolls into next year's budget is much easier for us to work with because we'll build a budget around that. But that was the big question is this April number, do we have
yeah,
that?
we do have that, and we do have positions that are open in the town.
That this would affect.
That yes, and we need, you know, ultimately it's y'all's decision.
Mhm.
And we want to make sure that you guys have everything that y'all need to make the decision that you need to make. But the sooner the better. That's just what we came
Yeah.
up with. I mean, when we talked to the department heads about it, we didn't want to get too far in the weeds with them because we didn't know if you guys were going to approve this or not. So we don't want to, put the cart before the horse, so to speak. So we wanted to talk to them about it to kind of get their input, but we didn't want to give them all the information, because we got to get y'all's blessing first
Sure.
on this. But yeah, we're excited about it. We're excied about, y'all have heard me say this. We want people that want to be here. And this creates that environment, and it makes it opens the door to get people here. And then when we get them here, then it's up to us to keep them.
Yeah.
But if the door's locked, they won't walk in the first place. So that's what
Yeah.
we're looking for. So we can open the door and say, hey, look at Andrew.
And then
We're
shut it
competitive.
behind them and keep them
This
forever.
is a good
right?
place. This is a good place to go work. Yeah. So that's kind of what
Yeah.
so.
I'm going to ask the question that I hope I already know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If we implement this, is anybody's pay going to go down?
No.
Okay. I just, I
And
assume
the-
no,
and-
but
and
I got to
I'll
ask.
say this: the plan that we've got in place, everybody gets something.
Okay.
Off the top of your head, what does it cost to train a police officer? Ballpark, before he can go out on his own.
Just to go through the FTO stage, you're looking at, it varies, but you're looking at roughly about $30,000 that you're investing into an individual. By the time you buy their uniforms, get them everything on their little Batman belt, and get them trained up. Once they go through FTO, they are basic officers. We're still keeping eyes on them. I don't want to be at home thinking that two individuals that just came off FTO are working by themselves. So like I said, it takes roughly about 2 years to get to the point where I'm sleeping good at night, knowing that they're working.
So ballpark $30,000, and if they get another job somewhere else making more money, so we just basically
You throw
throw
away
$30,000,
about
and
$30,000.
and
Yeah.
the next department doesn't
And
have
that's
to
not
train.
that's not counting their salary during that time.
Right.
Yeah, and it costs. I want everybody to understand it. It costs the town a lot more to replace people than it does to retain people.
Yes. Always will.
That's just the bottom line. Anybody that runs a business knows that.
So what do you need?
I make a motion to approve the pay plan as presented with an April 2025 implementation.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.
All right. You're going to move into old business. We have one item from old business. I'm going to present this one. Really doesn't have very much to do with it. So, all right, I'll paraphrase. So at the last meeting, we accepted the resignation of the ABC board chairperson, and some concerns were brought up as part of her resignation. We've included her actual resignation in the agenda packet so that anyone would like to see it can read the whole thing. I think the line that was concerning is, I cannot in good faith chair a board that allows poor cash management decisions to continue. So that obviously raises a lot of questions, and not really a great setting to kind of figure out what that would be. We've also included in the agenda a response from the remaining members of the ABC board. To paraphrase, they have professionally and politely, I think, expressed their displeasure in how this was brought up, and then asked for some unity and some collaboration to move forward. They end the letter with, finally, it is unanimous recommendation of the ABC board that our vice chairman, Mr. Tom Taylor, be appointed the chairman of our board. Mr. Taylor has more than 25 years of experience on the board and would be an excellent choice for this position. So I just wanted to throw that information out there. It was brought to my attention by staff last week, I think, or maybe the week before, that probably the best way for us as a board and a town to move forward would be to turn over what we have, any evidence, any concerns, to the state ABC board, who, in my opinion, would be more qualified and have more authority to determine if an investigation is warranted, to perform that investigation, and to either on their own decide what to do with those results or report back to us with recommendations for what we should do with those results. It is my belief that that's the best path forward to make sure that this is handled properly by people who are qualified and have the authority to do so. I'll open the floor for discussion amongst us up here tonight to see, and then hopefully we'll make a decision on that move.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Would you use your microphone?
I'm sorry about that, sir.
That's all right. It doesn't show up online if we don't speak into it.
Because there is or was not just disagreement, but an issue of not knowing what was actually going on, I feel that it is important to not just give one or two lines out of the letter. I think the letter should be read to the town in its entirety, because they're going to make decisions based on our actions without knowing the full information.
Mm-hmm.
If we share that with them, we don't expect them to come out and read the letter. If they want to, they obviously could. But I think it should be read out to them, as well as the letter that came back from the ABC Commission should be read out to the public.
Yeah.
If this letter was written to you instead of to the board, I think perhaps I would like for you to read it, since it was written to you.
I could certainly appreciate that. So I am not going to read either of these letters verbatim, because I don't want to set a standard where I'm reading people's letters in. I've made sure they were included in the agenda, and if you would like to, certainly you have my permission, though it's addressed to me, to read it into the record if you like. It's already on the record, but I would allow any of you guys to read any letters that you decide. Personally, I'm hesitant to set that standard.
I would like to, make a motion to ask you to read it. If anybody would like to fall in line with that.
Like,
All right. Can we do that? The motion is to force
Will you
me
use
to
your
read this
microphone,
letter.
please?
Sure. The motion is to have the mayor read the letter.
Into the record that it's
into the
already in.
record.
Mm-hmm.
The basis of that is it was written to him. It's not my letter. It was written to someone else. It was written to him. But it affects not just us, but it affects the entire town, so I want to share it with the entire town.
I mean, I think it's certainly a public record and can be read into the record.
So me reading it
I'm
would
trying to
not
think.
put it more into the record than it already is in the record.
Correct. I mean, it's in the agenda packet and it's available for anyone to read, but.
And even if it wasn't, it's public record that could
But
be requested
again, I'm
anyway.
not weighing the wisdom of making the motion or not. I'm trying to decide if can you make a motion to force a member of the board to read a particular document? I'm just not aware that there is, it can be read, and if the board votes to require it to be read into the record, I don't see any reason the board can't do that. It's a
Can they require that
strange
I
motion,
read
but-
it into the record? That's the
Well, I
question.
think as the one running the meeting, if the board wants to require that, I suppose they could. I'm just not familiar with any prohibition against that
Sure.
necessarily.
I have an
This is-
alternative.
Yeah.
Ms. Bishop is here tonight. She has the letter. Maybe we allow her to read it since
Well,
she
it's
wrote
up-
it.
That's up to the board, but I guess there is a pending motion that needs to be dealt with.
All right, you guys want to move forward on
I'm
this
in favor
motion?
of a motion to
She's here.
force someone to speak.
Yeah, if you wanna, yeah, that's fine.
Well, you may,
So you wanna go ahead?
you want to go forward with the motion or retract it?
I wanna vote on the motion.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor of forcing me to read the letter, raise your right hand. Opposed? 3-1. I have said before, and I've told several people, that I do not intend to start reading people's letters into the record for reading it into the record's sake. It sets a dangerous precedent where anyone can write a letter to Mr. Mayor and force those words out of my mouth out here. This email and the ABC board's email, the ABC board also asked me to read their letter. I explained to them for the same reasons why I would not. Whether I would like to or not is not a factor in this decision. In fact, sometimes it makes it harder to do it that way when it is something I do want to read. I am not going to read this letter. And so, Dan, we can figure out what's going to happen with that. Any of you guys could read this letter. It's already in the record. So if you'd like to create another motion to allow Ms. Fran to read it, that's at your discretion.
I'll look at our rules of procedure on that, but there certainly could be another motion.
Sure, I'll move to ask Miss Fran Bishop to read her resignation letter to the community.
I think the motion should be amended to say allow her to.
Yes, we can't require by vote her to read it.
We can't require her to, we can ask the mayor to.
I'm not even sure you could do that, but that's what we're doing.
If you would be voting to allow her an opportunity to read the letter if she chooses.
Mm-hmm. We would not be forcing her to do it. We would be allowing her to do it only because that is not what this agenda item requires
Lord,
her
have
input
mercy.
to begin with. So we can make the motion if you like to allow her to read.
We have far more important than the fact.
I'll make the motion to allow Miss Bishop to read her letter.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Ms. Bishop, if you would like to, you may read your letter.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Fran Bishop. I live at 98 Buddy Campbell Court. Y'all already know that. This is a letter that I sent to the mayor. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Mr. Usness. It is with great sadness that I'm sending this letter of resignation from the Andrew ABC Board. My wish was to hold on as long as I possibly could, despite the constant harassment, vandalism, slander that I had to endure these past 13 months. The situation has greatly affected both me and my family, and I've decided to resign effective today. My intention in taking this position was to assure the Andrew residents that the ABC Board and the ABC Store were in compliance with the state and local statute regarding cash management. I am honored that you and your colleagues showed faith in me and my experience and have been a source of support for this entire time. However, this has not been being done in a manner I'm comfortable with, and I cannot in good faith chair a board that allows poor cash management decisions to continue. The personal attacks and vitriol have been only one side of the equation. I have been subject to too many slanderous, file grievances, quotes to the newspaper, and public comments, and I plan to seek legal action for those going forward. It has been my honor to try to accomplish this task, and I feel like we've been able to make some great changes. I regret that I will not have the opportunity to finish the task at hand, but it's been like pushing a boulder uphill to get anyone to listen to reason with respect to paying the town what is owed by statute. I will continue to advocate for transparency and compliance in my new role as tax-paying resident. Best of luck to all of you going forward. Sincerely, Fran Bishop.
Thank you, Ms.
for
Bishop.
reading that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Would anybody like to ask me any questions while I'm up here?
I think
I'm
that,
happy to sit back down, but while I'm here.
let's not do that right now.
Okay, while I'm here.
So on the same token, do you guys want to make a similar motion to allow the ABC board, if they would like to read their letter? Do we need a motion for that, or we probably could just,
I want to make a motion to have her letter and the ABC board inserted into tonight's minute.
it's in the
Yes,
agenda.
yes, yes.
Okay.
So would you like to withdraw that motion?
No, I would like to go ahead and make sure it's actually in the minutes instead of someone having to look it up.
All right, there is a motion to make sure that we include this in our minutes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Liz, if you'll please make sure this is included in the minutes. Do we want to make a similar offer to the ABC board for their letter?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, somebody make the motion. Let's do it.
I move that we request that the ABC board come forward and, if they please, read the letter that they wrote to us.
Would you like to amend that to allow them?
I said if they please, but allow is fine.
All right? All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. I see they are sending the vice chair up.
On behalf of the Andrew ABC Board, we stand committed to fairness, justice, and integrity. Aristotle taught that true leadership is grounded in virtue and reason, not power. In that spirit, we address the concerns recently raised by our board. Governance is judged by actions, not intent. Words once spoken cannot be undone. Unfounded allegations sow discord and erode public trust. Responsible leadership demands that discourse be rooted in truth and due process, not speculation. We seek clarity, not confrontation. If misconduct is alleged, where is the evidence? If funds were mismanaged, why has no formal complaint been filed? Public officials must uphold the same standards they demand of others. The statute clearly defines the town board's role as appointing ABC board members. Why presume greater authority? We must choose wisdom over division, truth over assumption. The responsibility to restore trust lies with those who made these claims. We trust that those who made these claims will take appropriate steps to restore trust. As wisdom reminds us, if you look for the bad in mankind, hoping to find it, you surely will. Now is the moment to decide. Will the town commissioners uphold fairness and collaboration? The future of our governance depends upon it. Finally, it is the unanimous recommendation of the ABC Board and our Vice Chairman, Mr. Tom Taylor, be appointed the chairman of our board. Mr. Taylor has more than 25 years of experience on the board and would be an excellent choice for the position. And it is sincerely, the ABC Board is signed by the four remaining members of our board.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving forward.
Okay, I'd like to make another motion that we move that the town board of commissioners initiate an independent investigation through the state ABC board to address the recent concerns regarding the ABC board and the allegations and inferences that came from the resigning director. We trusted her. She has had our confidence for the entire time she was the director. And up until we had this letter and it was finished, we still had her confidence. I don't know why we don't have her confidence to fulfill what she has put in this letter. So can't be in both lanes, that we believe what we give her confidence, we show trust, and then all of a sudden, we don't trust what she says. We've got to choose one side or the other. So I feel as though that we need to go ahead and make that recommendation to the state for that purpose.
Before we vote, I want to ensure the folder full of information that you proposed will be included in what is handed over to the state. Because the allegations were not just made by Ms. Bishop.
To further clarify, just so it's crystal clear, is it going in line with the turnover what we have to the state and allow them, not
Okay.
us, do our own
No,
investigation?
I want to step away from it. I want
Yeah.
it to be done by independent, by the state,
Mhm.
with their departments, without our input, because that's the only way that we can ensure that the honor and integrity of the system, for fairness to her and fairness to the board, is upheld. If we're involved in it, there's always the question. If we allow an independent part, then there's no question as to whatever the findings are. Now, my hope as a commissioner is that they do an investigation, it's a full and complete investigation, and they find absolutely nothing. That is my hope. I don't want them to find issues and problems. I want them to show that perhaps we've done 100% of what we're supposed to. I'm not looking for trouble. I'm looking for information about issues that have been brought before us.
And I agree. I think that's the right course of action to that end. Any further discussion on that?
Couldn't said it better.
All right. The motion clear enough to vote on, you think?
I believe so, but just to clarify, the motion is to refer everything to the state board for whatever
Yes.
they deem fit.
Does anyone know if the state's already been contacted?
Well, odds are they probably were because her email that was sent to Bob also included the state.
Or whatever weight an official recommendation to the board has,
Mhm.
can do that.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. Old business. Flip the page. New business. All right. We have some board vacancies here. I guess Liz typically announces this, but she's losing her voice a little bit, and so I'm happy to do it. We have got one vacancy each on community development for a term expiring in December of this year, one for planning board for a term expiring in December of this year, and one vacancy for ABC board for a term that expires in December of next year. So if you guys are all right with this, we could just do this one board at a time, keep it easier. All right, for Community Development Advisory Board, in the term expiring in December of this year, we have one applicant currently, and that is Mr. Chuck Carey. I believe he is here with us tonight. If you would like to subject yourself to the microphone in front of us here. You've done this before, so Mr. Carey, you are already on. I didn't hear what you said, but I guess it was funny.
Okay, here we go.
Good evening, Mr. Carey.
Okay, good evening. My name is Chuck Carey, 203 Blair Drive in Angier. Not originally from here, so don't hold that against me. But we love this town. We came here in 2016 because we have 7 grandchildren. They live in Willow Spring, but they're close, and help my son with the business. So really, my wife and I really fell in love with this place, and this potential to even make it better, I think, is what you all esteem to do and do our part. So I like to volunteer. I'm kind of an extrovert, if you don't know that, but so when you have events, I'll probably be at every single one. I try to anyway, so that's one thing. I would like to be part of group things and the Crepe Myrtle, and I'm in the chamber, and just like all that stuff. But I'm not just going to have fun. I like to work too. So real quick, I'm not, touting my own horn, but before we moved here, I lived in a small town, not as small as Andrew, but small. And I was in a few organizations, and one, I was chairman of the Arts Council, and I can't draw a stick figure, but there were people that were, and I'm a musician, so I wanted to can integrate that. So we'd put on a big festival every year, and that really was really good. And just different things. Whenever there came up someplace where I could help, I did. You know, and a couple of my kids are athletic, and somehow I get people convinced me to help out with be a commissioner on the football league. And as soon as I did, my sons quit. So, but I thought I was doing a good job. Anyway, so don't take that when you're thinking about my position here. But anyway, that's about it. We love Andrew, and just really enjoyed the time we've been here so far. I want to continue. So if you need me, I'm ready to help out. So that's why I'm here. So Chuck Carey, 203 Blair Drive in Andrew. Thank
All
you.
right.
Any questions?
Hang out here. So
Okay.
before I ask you the hard questions, let's. I make a point. I discussed this briefly earlier, but so
Yes.
we're discussing it in the open meeting here. You are already a member of Parks and Rec Board.
Yes.
Is it your intention to serve on both?
If I can.
All right. The next question is for Dan to help us. Is there a problem with us allowing him to serve on these two boards specifically, at least?
No, General Statute 128-1.1 allows someone to serve two appointed offices at the same time.
Okay.
So this would be fine.
Okay. Now that's out of the way.
Okay.
I'll ask you. I ask everybody else. It's encouraging that you're already a member of a board. These advisory boards take a time commitment.
Yeah.
You know, this one probably more so than Parks and Rec. And so I just want to make sure you're aware of that. I think this board specifically, you know, they would like you to help with some events, and I just don't want anybody to be surprised by what they're walking into. So I think you already know these things, or you wouldn't be here. But those are,
And I'm not going to lie. We help out with the grandkids, of course, but that's a blessing. And I'm active in my church, but I'm not on the leadership, but I'm active in my church. But I get time management. We have a business, as you know, and so time management is really important. So, you know, I'll make it happen when I'll set the priorities when I'm needed, and I'll be there.
yeah.
So
I think their meetings currently are at 9 a.m. on a weekday. I don't know if anybody knows that for sure. I believe it is.
I'll be up by then. So
You sure?
They're 5
All right.
p.m. on Monday. They're 5 p.m. fourth Mondays.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right.
Community development is.
okay,
Oh, my apologies.
that's all right.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Carey? Thank you, Mr.
All
Carey.
right, thank you. You can call me Chuck.
Thank you for.
All right, Chuck, I'd like to make the motion that we go ahead and appoint Chuck Carey to the Community Development Advisory Board.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you, Chuck.
There you go.
All right. So he gets more applause than I do. That's not fair. All right. We had an applicant for, technically I'm on several ex officio, but anyway, we had an applicant for planning board, but they have withdrawn, which leaves us with no applicants tonight to consider. I think it would be wise for us to at least, you know, make a motion if we care to extend the application period to see if somebody else would apply.
Yeah.
I'd like to make the motion that we extend the application period.
Okay. Do we need to put any kind of definitive end date on that?
We've asked for 30 days prior, so I would say by our April meeting.
That would probably make sense. Extend it for 30 days and see where you are at the next meeting.
Okay. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. ABC Board, term expiring December 2026. There's one vacancy, and we have two applicants. First is Mr. Benjamin Hirsch. I believe he's here tonight. If you don't mind joining us up here and speak right into that microphone so the world can hear you.
Hello, my name is Ben Hirsch. I live at 8036 Crookneck Drive here in Anger. I've been here since August of 2022, 2 days after I retired. I used to be an accountant. I did accounting work for a publicly traded bank in New York. I drive through town every day because I play golf at Keith Hills. I'm, got to be one of the top 250 customers at the ABC store. I have plenty of time on my hands now to help out. It looked like something I'm qualified for, so I'm offering to help you out if you have any interest.
Yeah. It says here you were a Boy Scout leader.
Both my sons went through scouting, many years ago now, but yes, so I went camping and helped out the scoutmaster, and also was the treasurer of the troop for
Yeah.
a number of years.
So you were a 40-year accountant and a Boy Scout.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Hirsch while I have him up?
So this group does meet second Thursday at 9 a.m. Listen,
Okay, thank you.
that's the 9 a.m.
Yeah,
So
I knew there was one of them at
just so
9
you
a.m.
know, if you're familiar, your time and date, do you believe that you can make that commitment?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Hirsch? Thank you, Mr. Hirsch.
Thank you.
We have another applicant, Mr. Ethan Alexander Davy. His application is in the agenda, but it's my understanding that he's not here tonight. It's all right. You don't have to be considered. All right. Those are the two that we have. So if you would like to make a motion to appoint someone to this board, that is your right to do so.
I make a motion we approve Mr. Hirsch to the ABC board fulfilling the term through December 2026.
Okay? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 3-1. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch.
It's
All right.
not you, Mr. Hirsch.
So this one has the application window closed for this one. Do we need to do something similar?
It's up to you. Up to
We
y'all.
might as well.
We make a motion to accept Ethan Alexander Davies' appointment to the ABC board.
Okay? Any discussion?
I will be declining that based on his lack of attendance to tonight's meeting, where he would interview in front of us like everyone else does at appointment.
We actually appointed somebody on a board and they did not have an interview. We've done that previously.
Well, it's certainly at your guys'
Speaking for myself.
discretion to do it. All right. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? It is approved. All right. So,
Seriously? No
all right.
rattling down again.
all right, we're going to move forward. So we do not have a chairperson, and it is not on the agenda. But if you guys would like to appoint a chairperson at this time, I think it would be appropriate.
I would like to make a motion to approve Mr. Tom Taylor to the chair of the ABC board.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
I'd like to make a comment. The reason I cannot, in good conscience, recommend him is because when he was serving on that board previously, before he was reappointed, he did not upheld his duties of being an appointed figure, and I'm just leaving it as that.
Mr. Taylor,
If he would like to come up here and elaborate, that's up to him, but I just don't want to get into an argument. I think you know what I'm referring to.
making allegations.
Okay, so would you like to come up here and?
Nobody has
Okay.
to.
So,
I don't think that'd be appropriate.
The
So-
board would have to, because technically we're not in public comments, it's just discussion amongst the board, so
Yeah.
the board would have to vote to allow public comment.
Would you guys like
so
to
I'm just
allow
gonna
public
leave it,
comment?
I'm just gonna leave it at.
All right, if there's no further discussion, the motion is to make Mr. Tom Taylor chair of ABC Board. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
I have full
Opposed?
faith and trust in your ability.
All those opposed? 3-1. All right. Would like to nominate someone else or hold off on that or?
Someone that's not here.
Yeah, I'll nominate Mr. Davy as the chairperson of the ABC board.
I'm curious as to what the reasoning is.
I feel like he's got plenty of experience, integrity, and the ability to take a look at it with an independent eye.
Because Mr. Davy is not here, he is a Campbell University professor. He does have a PhD. He currently serves on Andrew Library Board, Harnett County Library Board, Board of Directors, Ciceronian Society, Faculty Representative, Campbell University Faculty Senate. Town boards previously served on Andrew Library Board 21-22. He currently serves Harnett County Library Board. He has a BA, MA, and PhD political science. I am responding to requests to put my name forward as someone who has sense and experience working with people on committees. Is there any conflict of interest? No. We just turned down someone who had 40 years financial, and we're concerned about the financial status of that board.
I'm curious also, and he's not here tonight to answer this question, but I'm curious to know whose request he's responding to put his name towards this. Does anyone know that?
How does anyone know he even wants to be the chairperson?
He put his application forward.
The
To join the
chairperson.
board.
I think that anytime you sign up for a board, you are
Well, I don't think we want to
automatically
make a habit of
expected
You're going to
forcing
appoint a chairperson
people.
that hasn't served on this board ever before?
You all did it before.
That's fair. So we see why we're doing this. So it's clear.
No,
No, we're trying to be transparent. We're trying to be transparent. And another thing, Ethan Davey also is a constitutional law professor at Campbell.
You didn't put it in his application.
He knows all about statutes. And how do I know? How do I know? Because he ran. He ran for office. We spent some time with him. That's how I know.
You see?
Do you know who requested, who put his name in?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right,
right,
there,
all right. There's a motion on the
there's
table.
a motion on the floor to make Mr. Ethan Alexander Davey chair of the ABC board. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? All right. All right, I think we are done with that one. So new business number 2, Kayla. If you'd like to join us up here, it says you are going to speak to us about a road closure for the egg hunt.
Okay, so I have
Would it be possible if we just take a 10-minute recess?
Yeah.
I don't want to interfere with
No,
you.
that's
There's a
fine.
lot of commotion. Would it be okay?
I'm all right with
All
that.
right.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Sorry,
Let's
Kayla.
Let's take a
There needs to be
recess.
vote. Well, there needs to be a vote.
I make a motion we take a 10-minute recess.
All those in favor,